Well, dear student, once again good morning. In this short video, I am going to tell you about the features, bony features of the scapula or the general features of the scapula. Once we have determined its side and its anatomical position, most of the time you should keep your bone in anatomical position to learn about the bony features. Though I am moving here scapula, I will have to move rather again and again, okay? Now, once again we will learn the scapula in different head, that means the bony feature. First I will tell you about surfaces, though I have told you many of the things of surfaces. Again, I will just mention briefly, okay? So, I will tell you about surfaces, then I will tell you about the borders of the scapula, and then I will just again tell you about the various angles which are present in the scapula, and lastly in the bony feature I will tell you what are the bony process which are arising from this triangular scapular bone. Now this bone belongs to the left side, okay? This is the left bone. This is the dorsal aspect. So you should keep in mind that it is. Just draw the rough triangular diagram from ventral and dorsal aspect on your rough page, and along with me just keep on labeling what I am saying. Okay, that way you will learn it better way. Okay, now first I come on surfaces. Now as I told you, there are two surfaces. Now this surface where you are just put your finger, and this triangular surface which is showing the concavity is the costal surface, okay? And this costal surface is just like, because of the concavity there is a shallow fossa like depression is seen in this costal surface, and this is called as the subscapular fossa. This is called as subscapular fossa. Then you just trace your finger towards the medial border. By this time you know which is the medial, the thin border. So the medial border. Then you trace your finger in the costal fossa, and then you will notice the ridges, okay? And these ridges which are running from lateral to medial side, and these ridges are for attachment of the intermuscular septa. Now just trace the the costal surface near the lateral border. Now lateral border is a sharp border, and just medial to the lateral border you will feel that there is a bony ridge is seen, okay? This is the bar of the thick bone which extend from the glenite cavity towards the inferior angle. So don't confuse with this bar of the bone which is a ridge, strong bony ridge with that of the lateral. Lateral border is something here which is sharp, and this is just the bony ridge extending from here. So on the costal surface there is a thick bar of the bone present here, which is not the lateral border. That you should keep in the mind, okay? Now, when you will see the dorsal surface, after seeing the costal surface, you will notice in this dorsal surface that there is a bony projection is attached onto the dorsal surface, which we have learned that it is said to be the spinous process. So this is the spinous process is attached here. Because of the attachment of the horizontally placed this spinous process, you can see here that there is a fossa-like structure here called as the supraspinous fossa, because it is above the spine. Hence it is called as supraspinous. And just trace your finger here. If you are having bone below this spinous process, there is a fossa-like structure, and this is called as the infraspinous fossa. Now this supraspinous fossa and this infraspinous fossa, they are continuous with each other at the lateral margin of this spinous process, and this is in the form of a notch. Can you see this notch here? Just I have tilted the bone so that you can see the notch which connects the supraspinous fossa with that of the infraspinous fossa, and this notch-like structure is called as spinoglenoid notch. Why spinoglenoid? Because on its medial side it is the spinous process, and on its lateral side it is the glenoid cavity through which this notch is going, okay? So this is the spinoglenoid notch. Now, after learning the surfaces, bony feature, now we come to the borders, okay? And we have already learned most of the thing of the borders for site determination. This is the superior border, which is quite thin, and it extends from a fossa here, I mean say notch here, what is called a supraglenite notch, I mean say suprascapular notch, sorry, it is not supraglenite, but suprascapular notch. And in this bone, see this suprascapular notch. You see this? This is the coracoid, vertical part of coracoid. This is horizontal part of the coracoid process. And at the root of the coracoid process, on the superior border here, the medial end of the, lateral end of the superior border, there is a very good notch here seen. Okay, U-shaped notch is seen here. This is called as the supraspinous and suprascapular notch. Suprascapular notch, and this is the superior angle is here. So you have understood. Sometime there will be no supraspinous notch, suprascapular notch, and sometime there will be very good suprascapular notch can be seen. Okay. Now let us come to the medial border, and medial border is very thin here. You can see this is the medial border. See this? This medial border, if you extend from superior angle to inferior, it is already thin here. Okay. Then come to the lateral border, and if you trace the lateral border from the glenite fossa, okay, just by feeling it with finger and thumb right up to the inferior angle, and this lateral border is sharp. See this lateral border? This is quite sharp border. Don't confuse it with the costal surface where there is a thick bar of the bone is present here. This is not the border, okay? This is the part of the costal surface, and the actual border is thin border. So these are the three borders of the scapula, okay? Then we go to the angles, okay? We go to the angles. This is the superior angle, which you already know. See this? Between the superior border and the medial border. This is costal surface, okay? So this is superior angle, and then when we see this angle here, between the medial border here and from glenite cavity, if you trace this lateral border, this is the inferior angle, okay? This is the inferior angle. Then we come to the another angle, which is at on the side of the angle there is the presence of the glenite cavity. So this glenite cavity itself is located at the lateral angle. Now if you see this glenite cavity here, this is a pear-shaped shallow structure which is articular in nature, and this is called as glenite fossa. It is glenite, where the head of the humerus will come and articulate here to form the shoulder joint. Okay, so this is the glenite cavity. Now if you will see on the top of this glenite cavity, okay, there is a tubercle is present here, and this is called as Supraglenite Tubercle. I can show you in a better way, I think. Yes, in this is the supraglenite. We are seeing the scapula from lateral side, and this is the Supraglenite Tubercle, and here is the Infraglanite Tubercle is located here. See, just below the glenite fossa, this is a roughening is seen here near the lateral border at the junction of lateral border and glenite cavity, and this is called as the Infraglanite Tubercle. Okay, we will know the significance of this tubercle later. This completes our angles. Okay, after superior, inferior and lateral angle is here. Now we come to the bony process. What are the process which are projection of the bones which are attached to this flat triangular bone? Okay. Now from this flat triangular bone, let us see first the spine process or spinous process. This is present on the dorsal surface of the scapula. See here, if you can see, I can show you by tilting it. This is a triangular bony process right here where my finger is moving. This is a triangular bony process, and in this triangular bony process, this will be the borders of the process itself, and then it will be having the surfaces of the process. Now this is the anterior border or the ventral border which is attached to the dorsal surface of the bone. Okay, it is, so this is called as anterior, which is an attached border here. Then opposite to this border is a free border, and this free border is called as the posterior border. And if you will see the whole thickness of posterior border by tilting the bone, then you can see that this is the crest of the spinous process. So the posterior border is sometimes also called as the crest of the spine. So they are both the same thing. Either you call the posterior border of spinous process or spine, or that the crest of the spine. Okay, you call it crest of the. Then there is a third border here beside this anterior border, posterior, the crest. This is the third border here, which is called as the lateral border of the spine. Naturally, since it is the medial border here of the scapula, so which is close to median plane, this will be definitely then called as a lateral border of the spine, which forms the spinoglenoid notch here. Okay, the lateral boundary of the spinoglenoid. So these were three border of the spinous process. Then there is a superior surface, okay, of the spinous process, which is forming the floor of the supraglenite fossa. Okay, I have already told you that there is the dorsal surface is divided above the spine, supraglenite fossa, and below the spine it was the infraglanite fossa, right? Infraglanite fossa, right? Then we go to the next process, and that is the acromion process. And acromion process, you will see that it is the continuation of this spinous process, or the spine of the scapula. If I will show you in this I will say plane, then you can say that this is the spinous process is ending here, and then this bone-like projection is going, which is horizontally placed here. This is called as the acromion process. Okay, this is called as, okay, so it is present on the dorsal surface of the scapula, and this is the acromion. Now this acromion process, it overhangs onto the glenite cavity. Just I will show you from this aspect. So this is the glenite cavity or glenite fossa, and it is overhanging, okay, onto the glenite cavity. So it will have two borders, acromion. This is the, towards, since it is the medial border, this border, if you will trace the upper border of the crest of the spine, it will continuous with the medial border of the acromion process. And then if you trace the lower margin of the posterior border of spine or the crest of the spine, this will continue with the lateral border of the acromion process. Till both the medial and lateral border, they will meet at an articular facet, which is a small oval articular facet. I hope you are able to see this small oval articular facet. This is for the lateral end of the clavicle to form the acromioclavicular joint. So the clavicle comes and articulates here. That is between the medial border and the lateral. Then there are two surfaces of acromion process. One is the superior surface and another is the inferior surface. So inferior surface is facing towards the glenite cavity. Now, I will tell you when I will teach you in the next video the attachment of ligament, how this acromion process forms a arch-shaped self-like structure, okay, above this glenite cavity. So this was the second process, acromion. Coming to the third process, and this third process is the coracoid process. Okay, let me show you first this coracoid process from the let me show you from the dorsal aspect first. Okay, now this is the coracoid process, which is attached on near to the apex of this glenite cavity here, and it has two parts. One is a vertical part and another is the horizontal. So it bends like a finger. Okay, if your finger is bending like this, this is the vertical part and this is the horizontal part of this coracoid. It is exactly like the beak of the crow. That's why it is called as the coracoid process, right? Now this coracoid process, as it is attached close to the lateral angle here, and we have already seen in its relation the suprascapular notch. Okay, sometime in place of the notch there may be a foramina also. Okay, there may be a supraspinous foramina. Right. So this was the coracoid process. Now if you will keep this bone into the anatomical position, then you will also notice that this horizontal part of the coracoid process and its tip of the coracoid process, they are facing anterolaterally. Just like the glenite cavity, I told you in anatomical position, it should face anteriorly. And this is the costal surface which is facing the anteromedially towards the thoracic ribs, okay, thorax, right? This medial and anterolateral. So this is anterolateral projection of the coracoid process. I hope that you have understood all the surfaces, costal, dorsal. Then you have understood borders, superior border, the medial border, the lateral border. Then you have understood the superior angle, the inferior angle, and this is the lateral angle. And then you have understood the three different processes of which are attached to this bone, triangular bone. This is the spinous process which divides the dorsal surface in supraspinous and infraspinous fossa. Continuity of this spinous process is the acromion process, and coming out from the glenite cavity itself, from the upper angle, that is supraglenite tubercle, this bony beak-like process is the coracoid process. So these are the three bony process. This completes the bony structure, okay, general feature of the scapula, and in the next video I will tell you the attachment of the scapula.